Hey, what's up you guys? As we discussed last week, this week we're going to turn a pop can into a camera lens. Now I'm not going to use any glass or anything along those lines. It's going to be made with all things you can find at your house to make a pinhole lens, essentially. So pinhole photography has been around for a really long time, and basically what it is you have a little tiny hole in the front of the camera that lets the light and the image in, and it's such a high f-stop number and such a small aperture that it creates kind of an in-focus and clear image, but everything is still really soft. It's a long exposure tool, so you can't take fast photos with this. You have a very long exposure time needed in order to get a good photo using the pinholes. That way it's not overexposed or underexposed. Now, I've done a lot of film photography with pinhole with 110 and 35mm, and they still sell 4x5 and 8x10 pinhole cameras and lenses. Today we're going to discuss digital pinhole photography, because yes, you can take digital photos with a pinhole lens, and that's what we're going to make today. So this lens that we're going to make will actually work on the D70 that we talked about in last week's video. It'll work on the 5100 I'm recording on now, the 5300 that I normally shoot with, or any other Nikon digital camera, as long as it's the DSLR with the F mount. Now this will also work with Canon. I just don't have the parts to make a Canon version because I don't own a Canon. Again, I would like to change that one day. So let's go over what we have here today on my table. I'm going to bring the camera down. So what we actually need is all here today. We have a pair of scissors, some super glue. This is the gel kind. Any super glue should work. This is actually a camera cap. So when you have a body camera without a lens on it, you stick the body cap on there. That is the F mount style, the bayonet style that Nikon uses, and that's what I meant by making one for a Nikon, because I don't have a Canon one. We have a standard 12-ounce Pepsi can, masking tape, and a little tiny pushpin thumbtack. So with everything we have here, we should be able to make a working pinhole lens using a pop can. Alright, so we have everything in front of us to do this. So the first thing you want to do is wash out your pop can. You don't want to get soda pop all over your area, and you don't want the sticky mess to deal with later. So I'm going to punch a very small hole. You have to be really careful, as pop cans are really sharp when you cut them. We'll take the logo. Now with the camera cap, I already drilled a hole, very small hole, but that hole isn't small enough or fine enough to get the aperture we need in order to take a good pinhole photo. So what we'll end up doing is, let me dry this off, we take our little tiny piece of metal and we're going to punch a little tiny hole in it using our push tack. As small as we can. Yes, you can barely see the light through that, and that'll work perfectly for what we need. So you use a piece of metal because it has a smooth edge and it doesn't disturb the light as it goes through the lens, or it doesn't disturb the light going into your camera, so you get a really good image out of it. Now what I'll do is I'll put the thumbtack through the bottom where the hole is drilled. That way I kind of have a good idea of where to drop the actual pinhole. We'll measure it up and we'll make sure it'll fit nicely into the camera cap. And it doesn't. You see the corners are in the way. It doesn't fit in there flushly. We kind of want it to fit flushly inside this inner circle. So we're going to go ahead and trim that up a bit more. And they do make these, you can order them, they're laser drilled is what they say, and it has an aperture that's given to you. It works with your light metering app because then you have an aperture and you can punch the aperture in with the light metering app. And if you're able to punch the aperture into the light metering app in your ISO, you'll be able to get a good shot the first time, but because we're not shooting with film, I'm not too concerned. It's digital, we'll have instant results, and we can adjust the camera as needed. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit more, take some of them sharp edges off. We don't want to cut ourselves. So next thing we want to do is actually take the super glue. Once we know that we can line it up right where we need it at, see how we can do that? So as they hold that with the thumbtack in there, and that'll act as our guide. we'll put just a little bit of super glue. You don't need a whole lot because super glue is amazing stuff. Line that up so the point is touching. You'll hold it on there just for a few seconds, just to make sure that the super glue sets with your piece of pop can on there. And I'm holding the thumbtack in the back as well. That way it's still lined up with the hole I have drilled in the camera cap. Pull that out. And then if I look through, I should be able to see. So after your glue dries, and you want to be careful not to glue too close to the edge. I actually had to scrape some of the glue out of the hole that I drilled. That way we can actually get some images with it. And they're not too fogged over. I think the glue would make it look almost a little fogged over. But as you can see, we have our little tiny hole. And there's the glue spot that I had to crank out because I put it too close. Just like that. And then usually I'll use gaffer's tape or masking tape for this part. But I'll take a strip of it. I don't want to be wasteful. This is all about upcycling. And I'll lay it along the edges to make sure that, because the pop can is cylindrical, we want to make sure that the edges don't pop up or anything, but also it helps prevent light leak. And then it's bright and blue, or if you use gaffer's tape it'll be black, but that kind of gives you an idea, hey, that is my pinhole lens. And these are really, really great for taking landscape photography because you have to shoot such a long exposure. You get the movement if there's wind in the grass and the trees. If you're shooting water, you get that cool silky effect in the water, and all with a pop can and a camera cap and a little bit of super glue and ingenuity. Now I'm going to grab some cameras and I'll show you that it does indeed fit on the cameras that I do own, both digital and film, and that you can know that you can use this for digital or film with something as simple as this. Now they do make these, like I was saying earlier, you can order them on eBay. They're laser drilled. They're about 12 bucks. If you're in the market for a quick landscape camera and you don't have a lot of money, a D70, if you order a body only off eBay, 40, 50 bucks. It'll come with one of these caps. You can very easily convert this cap into a pinhole lens and go and take some very, very artistic photos. Now, it's kind of difficult for me to shoot video of me using the pinhole camera, so I'll do an example here on the table and I'll set up a nice little scene here. We'll take a quick picture of that, and then I'm going to actually go and do some landscape photography over the course of the next couple days, and then we'll sit down and we'll go over them. We'll talk about the softness and the different kind of beauty you get. So like I was saying, this cap here will work on any of these Nikons over here, and I don't know for sure. I'll have to look into it if Canon has the same mount on all their lenses. If so, this nifty little hack will work on Canon as well. Like I've said before, I don't have anything against Canon. I only shoot Nikon because that's what my grandfather had, and that's what I had lenses for from doing film photography. I would like to get my hands on a Canon. We kind of go through these same hacks and these same budget kind of things with Canon, as well as, you know, Sony, Olympia, all that stuff. I would love to up my camera collection. And again, I won't own a camera I can't shoot. So I'm going to set up a little demonstration of how this lens works and how to shoot with a pinhole lens. And then I will go over some landscape photography I'm going to do. It's going to be hard to carry out 2 tripods and both my cameras, set up a camera to do a time lapse of me shooting in the field. So instead I'm just going to shoot in the field. We'll go over the photos, but you'll get a good idea of digital pinhole photography from this next little bit. Okay, so I have this one set up with our neato little lens. Now you don't really have a viewfinder because the viewfinder shows very, very, very small amount of light. Over here I have the Nikon FG, which you can't see, and my hat, which is what this is all named after, Pink Hat Photography. You can see them a little bit better there. So I'm going to set it up. This is a 10-second exposure, 100 ISO, and let's see what we get. The waiting game is the worst. So we actually did get an image on our first try. Let me see if I can show you. It's really, really soft. See? All with this. Now I kind of want to play around with this a little bit more and see what happens if I up the ISO. So we're going to bring, oh, the ISO is at 640. I am wrong. It is not at 100. It's at 640. So we're going to bring that to 800. 10-second exposure again. I'm just going to set this here. I didn't want to break out another tripod or anything like that. 10 seconds. So we want a full stop up on ISO. We went from 640 to 800, so twice the amount of light, twice the amount of sensitivity. And we got a semi-clearer image. I can't wait to really see what this looks like. It's kind of got a smoky effect and feel to it. So I can't wait to go do some landscape photography. I really want to do a sunrise with this. I think a sunrise with this little homemade lens of ours using a pop can is going to be so amazing. So bear with me. I'll do some sunset photography in the morning, and when this video comes up, I'll have them edited. With nothing but a pop can and one of these camera caps that comes with your camera, we were able to make a pinhole lens. Now, a pinhole lens, you're not going to get super sharp images out of. It's for artistic photography. It's for gallery work, magazine work, for your Instagram or anything along those lines, and it'll really, really stand out. Not a lot of people are doing digital pinhole photography. Hey, what's up, you guys? We're back in my basement. I'm a little bit tired. I just got done shooting a festival all day. I'll be back there tomorrow, so my face is a little bit red. I apologize for that. So I kind of want to discuss this pinhole lens that we made out of an old soda can. Upcycling, right? So I actually went through and redid it, and I'm going to show you the examples of why. So these examples are the ones I took with the one that we made together here. And they're a little foggier than I would have liked, and the reason for that is because the hole in the back that I originally drilled was the smallest drill bit in my set, which I think is 5/32, if not smaller. And when I glued the can on, and it's in the outtakes actually, I got super glue in that hole, and I tried to get it out and I couldn't get it out, and I took those photos and they were foggy, so I was like, okay, I'll drill it out. And when I got to work, I went to drill it out and I drilled through the pop can. So I actually had to get a Sprite can off of someone at my work, and I redid it, and I drilled the hole a little bit bigger, 2 sizes bigger, in order to clear up that problem and to allow more space between the actual hole, the little tiny pinhole in the can, and that. So these photos I'm showing right here, I actually took with the original build, and you can tell they're foggy, and that's because of a mix of the super glue and the hole in the back being too small. It's a lot of experimentation when doing things like this, and I learned some lessons on that. So I went through and I drilled it bigger, and I spread the glue out more, so I actually made the piece of metal bigger, and it fits in there better. I didn't use the tape because I wasn't worried about light leaks because of the amount of more space I had given it, and then I went and took these photos with it. Now, all the photos I took were at sunrise, early in the morning, and it is long exposure, so it is a very long process. 30-second exposures at 500 ISO. Again, the aperture is whatever a thumbtack is. So we get a lot of blurriness in these images, we get a lot of softness, and with the hole being smaller than the one I actually have on here, I'm sure that the images would sharpen as that hole got smaller. It's something I need to experiment with, and something I would like to figure out more of. But again, these images that I'm sharing now are with the new design, and they were a little bit more clearer. They didn't have that same fog. In this one, I actually had my hand in front of the lens for just a little while, so you can kind of see my hand in there, and it's more of an artistic style of shooting. Personally, I really enjoy artistic shooting over portraiture. Now, the difference between my portraiture and my personal favorite kind of photography, I'm going to go over in next week's video. Actually, I kind of want to go over these images right now, but next week's video, I'm going to go over the difference between my artistic style and the styles I enjoy versus the styles that clients expect of me. So let's get back into our pinhole little thing here. So I've only ever done pinhole with film before this build here, and I've used the pop can method with shoe boxes, old film canister boxes that were a little bit larger and things like that, but I had never done one with digital, so I was a little worried it wouldn't work out, and I'm actually really happy with the way it did work out. It is a practice makes perfect kind of opportunity here, and I would like to remake this again with an even smaller pinhole to kind of see if it sharpens up. If I do that, I will do a video on that. But let's talk about these images a little bit more. So the editing I did on these images, I brought the vibrance up a little bit because we were shooting at sunrise, and I was shooting in RAW. So I did bring the vibrance up a little bit to bring out those oranges and a little bit of purple and pink that was there. And I lowered my contrast actually. That way the trees seemed a little bit more lit up, the building itself was a little more lit up, but to compensate for the softness that lowering your contrast brings, I raised the clarity up. So I did edit these videos a bit. They are more of an artistic style of photography. Again, personally, I really enjoy artistic photography, and I do encourage anyone to push their artistic limits, push the experimentation. This was partially experiment. Now they do make laser cut versions of these caps where it is a metal plate that's been laser drilled, so I guess it's laser drilled, not laser cut, to have an exacting precision, and you can actually use your light meter to figure out your exposure times. So if you're doing film and you're going to use an SLR camera, like a 35mm camera, but you want to use film, you can order one of those. It'll give you an exact aperture to punch into your light meter in order to get the photographs exactly how you want them without having to develop the film and see where you messed up. Whereas with digital, you get that instant result, so you say, okay, well, I need to bring the exposure up, or okay, I need to bring the exposure down, or I need to bring the ISO up, or the ISO down, or exposure compensation, or the amount of shutter speed, anything along those lines to get the photographs you really, really want. So I wouldn't use this particular lens to do like a portrait shoot. I wouldn't use it for an event or anything along those lines. This is strictly an artistic lens, and I am going to call it a lens because it goes on the front of my camera. It makes light do the magical thing that light does to my sensor, and it delivers a photograph, and that's amazing to me. I was able to capture photos with nothing but a camera body cap, some super glue, and a soda pop can. So again, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that way you know when I upload. This video is a little bit late just because I'm running so behind with the festival. Comment below if you have any suggestions for videos or anything you'd like to see me do or try, or if you want to see me experiment more with these pinholes and new lens ideas and things like that. Thank you guys again so much for joining me. You have a wonderful night. I'll catch you next week.